Hello my friends, good evening to you. It is now the end of the day here where I am. You might see it's not the best video quality because I've got the I've got the room lights on, so it's not lots of natural light flooding in, unfortunately. So I'd like to get a HD camera for a bit of better quality, but anyway, you don't want to see my face in HD. I'm sure I'll probably put you off rather than entice you to come back. But here we are, we're finally back, and I've been thinking in the sort of intermittent time, the intermediate time, about what we could have a look at today, who we could listen to today. And I know, if you look, I think it's two or three or four videos back down the chain, here on the JB Classical channel, I did a Pavarotti influences video where he talks about the great Franco Corelli, one of my personal favourites. In fact, probably my favourite singer since I first discovered opera, and seems to have been very, very popular. You all seem to have enjoyed it very much. I found it very interesting. So I found another video of Pavarotti talking about one of his other influences, another singer, an earlier singer, who you may well know about, but you might not, called Beniamino Gigli. I hope I said that properly. If you're Italian again, I apologise. Beniamino Gigli, who was of an earlier generation, before Corelli, sort of just after Caruso. So we're talking about, at his height, we're talking about, the sort of 30s, 40s. Obviously sang from the, professionally from 20s, 30s into the 40s. I think he died in the 50s, early 50s. But what I found fascinating is again one of my favourites, Beniamino Gigli. But as influences to Pavarotti, what I find interesting is that Gigli's voice, his delivery, is completely different to Corelli's. Corelli's is, as Pavarotti said, and you've got to go and check out the previous video, Corelli's voice and the power of it, the sheer power of it, and clarity, was sort of always on. Always on. His technique was amazing. I still can't believe that he managed to sing through an entire opera, 3 hours or whatever, I suppose, on an average, during a night. And of course, obviously, you're not in every scene in most operas, but you're singing the big numbers. You're obviously singing the sort of the story in between. You're physically there acting, on stage and doing all, which must be very, with the nerves and everything, must be extremely exhausting, to put it mildly. And singing anyway must be difficult, and maintaining, for an opera singer, maintaining your voice, and for a tenor hitting those high notes that are expected of you throughout an opera must be very difficult. But with the power and clarity and highs that Corelli hit, I still find it amazing, superhuman, to be honest, that he managed to sustain that throughout an opera and throughout a run of a run. It's just blows my mind, to be honest. But anyway, having said that, as I say, I find it fascinating that Gigli, who was famous for a much more lyrical, lighter, that sounds funny to say, but singing tone, voice, not really the power, not associated with the power of Corelli. And as a result, at the beginning, well, for the first sort of half of his sort of height of his career, he sang much more lyrical roles, rather than the sort of rather than being known for the sort of the power roles in sort of Aida or Tosca, or the sort of heroic tenor roles that you would associate with Pavarotti, with Corelli, things like that. So anyway, we're going to watch a little clip, not too long, of Pavarotti again, now talking about his influence from Gigli. We're going to listen to a little bit of, I believe in the video, of Gigli singing at the beginning Cielo e Mar from La Gioconda, which also is funny for me because that's the first aria I ever heard Corelli sing, and was absolutely blown away. It's one of my favourites, actually, arias for Corelli to sing. So it's funny how things connect, isn't it, in sort of squares sort of eventually circle themselves. But so anyway, here we go. I'm just going to fire up the video. Okay, my camera stopped recording. I'd already started the video and my camera stopped recording, so I'm gonna, if you saw a funny sort of edited cut, it's because I've had to sort of restart my reaction to the video. Hang on, here we go. So 3, 2, 1, let's go.
Incredible. It's Gigli. Here it is. Beniamino Gigli. He was in Modena, I was 12, I remember vividly. And I did like the performance, good, but not. And then, at the end of the opera, they brought a piano on the stage, and Gigli make a concert on request. Di quella pira, okay, di quella pira. Nessun dono. Una furtiva. Doesn't matter what. He sang, I think he sang something like 20 or 30 pieces after the opera. At that point, I realized that this is the most elastic, the most vocal of all the tenor.
Gigli era un tenore affascinante.
Gigli was a fascinating tenor. Campogalliani used to say that he had the voice of a woman, which is a strange way to put it. I think rather that he had the voice of a lily, a flower, very gentle.
Era molto gentile, ma è stato senza dubbio un tenore molto.
But he was, without a doubt, a very important tenor because of his long career, his technical mastery, and his legato. I think Luciano took the legato from Gigli. Legato means sustaining the sung note with the same vibrancy until the very end.
Anche per noi l'onorevole Andreotti stringe la mano a Gigli.
So there we are. It's very short, I know. A bit too short, really. Beniamino Gigli, again, one of my favourites. Obviously, one of Luciano. Again, I didn't until I found the video. I didn't know myself how much of an influence to Luciano he was. I can hear what they're saying. I can see what they're saying vis-a-vis the legato and the similarities between Gigli's and Luciano's. What I hope to do, or plan to do, as this has been quite a short one today, but I wanted to sort of make one and put it out there because it's been a while for you, for my viewers, so thank you for coming back to watch. So what I'm hoping to do in the next video is perhaps put together maybe 2 or 3 arias sung by Luciano's sort of main influences chronologically. So maybe Gigli, somebody else, and then Corelli, or or Caruso, Gigli, and Corelli. Because I know obviously Caruso was well known. Was of course an influence for Luciano. I remember when I first started listening to singers, opera singers, and opera. It was the singers mostly that drew me to opera, and especially the tenors. I mean, everyone loves a great tenor singing a great aria. But at the time, I had no money really. A couple of pounds maybe every couple of weeks, and I think, as I said in previous videos, I go to what we used to have here, a chain store called Woolworths, which is sadly gone now. And they used to have a music section, and they always had like a sort of a metal basket, where CDs that had lost their notes, that had lost their covers, that were just CDs in a plastic case or just on their own, just out of the case, will be stuck in this this bargain basket bin thing, and so they cost next to nothing really. And often it was filled with classical music, and particularly opera CDs and cassette tapes. Remember those? This is in the days of the Walkman, sort of early 90s. And nobody really wanted them, so because they were cheap, I picked them up and listened to them. And one of the things, I still have it actually, double CD, is a CD of old 78 recordings. If you're under 50 or under 40 maybe, a 78 is a record. It's an old type of record. 78 denotes the RPM, the speed it sort of span at on the turntable on a record player. If you don't know what a record player is, you probably do. They're making a comeback these days. But again, if you don't know what a record player is, ask somebody who's a bit older in your family, or Google it. But it's a CD recording of old 78s, and it's got on it the old singers from the turn of the century. It's got Caruso, it's got Gigli, it's got Larry Volpe, it's got just so many. The tenors singing arias themselves, and tenors singing with sopranos of the day and things like that. It's fantastic. But that was one of the first sort of collections I had as singers. So again, like with Corelli, right at the back at the beginning of my sort of education, that I didn't realise I was getting at the time, but my sort of self-education, Gigli's been there, and so has Caruso. But yeah, it's very interesting to me listening to people like Caruso and Gigli and the earlier singers, how lyrical and light their voices seem to be, perhaps compared to sort of someone like I don't know, Jonas Kaufman now, or the big tenors of the sort of 60s and 70s with all their sort of power. I mean, one of my favourites is, probably same as you, is Giuseppe Di Stefano, who of course famously sang often with Maria Callas and Tito Gobbi, sort of, and often conducted in the great operas by Tullio Serafin and things, thinking of very famous recordings of Tosca and La Boheme and Pagliacci and all of that. One of my favourite tenors, because for me, he sort of represented both sides. He can be very lyrical when he wants to be, and like sort of harking back to the earlier tenors, but also when he wanted to do the old heroic sort of high C's and everything and really sort of wallop it, he could. Of course, he sort of had a shortened his career because of the, perhaps, I suppose for want of a better term, the forcing of his voice into that sort of high range for the big heroic sort of arias. Unlike someone like Jussi Björling, who of course was very famous again for having a very sort of lyrical like voice. So I do really enjoy the earlier singers that don't perhaps have the power, or similar sorts of power in their voices that those the second half of the 20th century do. That became the sort of the thing really. But in a sense, they never let their talent and their voices get in the way of the actual song. Do you know what I mean? They didn't sort of. It was about the music and the technique and the emotion, perhaps, maybe more than the sort of the personality or the big name and the fame and the. Do you know what I mean? The voice being subservient to the composer and the music. I think there's a lot to be said for that. And I think that's one of the things that Luciano did extremely well. And I think that's why, actually, a lot of us, aside from his fantastic technique, I think a lot of us really appreciate many of his performances now still, because he realised that no matter how great his talent was or how great his instrument was, it was at the service of the great music, the great composers. So that was great. I enjoyed that. I hope you did. We've gone over 10 minutes, so I'm hoping soon with all the editing. This is the easy bit recording it. All the editing now is the bit that takes a while, especially with all my second-hand refurbished computer and everything, and what it won't do and what it will do. And then I've got to see if I can get it past the old YouTube algorithm, of course. Sometimes it likes it, sometimes it doesn't. So let's see. But this probably should be fine, I would have thought. I hope. Touch wood. We'll be fine. But hopefully coming up next, we'll have a bit of a 3-for-1 Luciano influences, and then we'll move on to something other than opera after that. I think we'll go back to a bit of orchestral music, maybe a few concertos, or I don't know. I'm not quite sure yet. Haven't decided. But thanks for watching. If you haven't subscribed already, please do. People are subscribing. It's fantastic. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. I can't tell you how much I appreciate your comments. So please do comment down below and tell me what you think about the whole topic of old tenors, new tenors, respectively. What do you think of the opera scene now, before COVID hit and everything? I mean, what do you think of the singers now, really? Very, very professional, but do we have the sorts of voices that we had once had? What do you think? And the sort of talent that we... is it still there? I know what I think, but what do you think? I'm interested in what you think about that. So I'll see you next time. take care, look after yourselves. Looks like summer's coming to an end, especially here in the UK. Quite quickly, it's very autumn, very autumn sort of feeling in the air at the minute. So I don't know where it is, how it was like where you are, but start getting those duvets out and wrapping up warm at night, won't you? But yeah, see you next time. Thanks for watching, and happy listening. Ciao for now.